I'm calling the meeting to order. Welcome to tonight's meeting. Vanessa, please call the roll.
Chair Fleming,
Here.
Vice Chair Milliken, Treasurer Davis,
Yes, here, present.
Secretary DeVarty, Trustee Hatcher,
Here.
Trustee Landau,
Here.
Trustee McKnight-Morton. Here.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion on the agenda? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Moving on to tab A, the approval of the minutes. The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve the minutes of the December 17th monthly meeting as submitted. Do I hear a motion to approve minutes?
So moved.
Second. Second. Any discussion on the minutes? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, moving on to citizen participation, verbal communications. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Happy New Year. I guess I don't want to set that on the computer. Screw it up. Number of notes here first. I'd like to note the passing of Stephen Gill. I know that the board is aware of this. I was not at the last board meeting, but I want to send my condolences to the Gill family. I knew him as well as perhaps any of the members of the Board of Trustees other than maybe Ruth Hatcher. And I'm sad to hear of his passing. He served the college long and well. I also want to note that in your board packet tonight, you'll see that Mike Shute has retired, has left the service of the college. Mike was with us, I think the packet said 13 years, so as retirees go, not a particularly long service. But Mike served the new motorcycle department when it was formed well, and he's retiring under not the best of circumstances. He's not well, and we wish him the best of luck also. As you know, we have a new Vice President of Human Resources, Chris Mahaly. We're going to miss Sam Beltry. Sam had a great relationship with us. As always happens in labor relations, you cross swords and then you drink a beer. And Sam was, I admired his tenacity. I admired the way that he represented this board and this college and the way that he served all of us, and I'll miss him. But Chris and Katie DeLong are going to do a great job. I've had the pleasure of working with Chris for a lot longer than I want to think about. And Katie's done great as labor relations. And I think it's worth noting, too, that Rose and I have an evolving relationship. That we've come to know each other better, and that's something. Last, I want to talk briefly about what the WCCEA is doing to support the millage. Julie Kissel will be going over to EMU next week to the Faculty Senate when it meets, and we'll be giving a pitch there. She's kind of the perfect person for that, given her connections to EMU. And then I'm going to be talking to the faculty at our monthly faculty meeting next week, urging them to do all they can to support the millage. And Michelle's given me some material that I can pass out and some ideas that I can spread around. Obviously, this is an important thing for us. We've got to get the millage passed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for that. Are there any other public comments?
Yes, there are.
Okay, please come to the podium.
Good to see you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mike Gallia, recently retired CS faculty member with the emphasis on retired. As some of you that know me know that both my wife and I are very active people, and as a result of that, now that we're retired, both of us are retired, we're even more active. So fitness has always been a concern for us. And I've just recently found out that our Medicare provider, Blue Care Network, has a program called Silver Sneakers. Mm-hmm. And where and I don't know all the details, but they do subsidize membership at different fitness centers. Now, in this area, we have LA Fitness, Planet Fitness, Anytime Fitness, and a few others. And guess who is not a member of that program? And that is our own fitness center here. We've been members there since day one, and prior to that, we're members at Liberty. So I really, and I think this is a great program because it does encourage seniors to be more active. And I think, and I don't know the economics of this in terms of whether it makes sense for us to do something like that, but I'm guessing that all the aforementioned fitness centers aren't doing charity work there when they participate in this program. So there may be some benefit, a win-win for everybody. So I would ask the board that maybe we could direct our folks to take a look at this and see if we can join this program. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any other public comments? If so, please come to the podium. Okay, seeing none. Vanessa, were there any written communications?
Yes, very.
Okay, thank you much. Okay, moving on to special reports. First up, VP Hearns with STEAM Week.
Good evening. We have some guests with us today, and we thought it was really, really important for you all to hear about STEAM Week and CTE Month. We gave you all buttons, and you also have information in your folders. I think the part that we thought was so amazing about what our faculty and staff did in partnership with Michigan STEAM Initiative is we really brought together a lot of faculty and staff across campus, and those highlights you'll see are broken down by different pathways. So really, us as a community college highlighting the programs that we have as they relate to STEAM. And I think the really cool point about this is that 33 faculty and staff and the financial aid team, along with 23 organizations, including 4 universities and student clubs, came together to put on STEAM Week. And so we have some faculty and staff, Susan Detail, Mike Duff, and Scott Easter, who's going to talk a little bit more about kind of some highlights of what's going to happen during STEAM Week.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting us tonight. And do you want me to come up here? Okay. So, there. Anyways, you know, I was thinking about this as I was walking over. I'm a biologist, and we talk about ecosystems, or we talk about systems and how they interact. And so this is a true, I would say, collaboration. So I'm very excited. It's driving me a little crazy right now, but we're getting there. We are going to have some really, really top people coming into our campus. Aisha Bao is coming back. She's doing a STEM challenge workshop. We have Marlon Williams, who is actually from Techtown, Detroit. We have Michigan Aerospace Corps. We have Enbridge coming to talk about their tunnel work in the Straits. We have interactive workshops where they're actually doing things. We have presentations. We are hosting 2 documentaries, and because we are officially a bee campus, they are both bee themed. Each day you'll see has a theme to it, and there are basically 3 sessions, time slots, and then for each day there's like 7 concurrent different sessions going on. We invited high school seniors and juniors from Livingston and Washtenaw County, plus our campus community and the Washtenaw community. Anyone can attend. And to me, you're talking about the millage, David was talking about the millage. Offering something like this to our community, I think, is so important. And what the whole purpose of STEAM Week is to expose, especially students, to all of these wonderful, wealthy opportunities for careers in STEAM. And that, we're making it mean something. We have lots of arts. We have Tyler Rand, who is associated with Ann Arbor Symphony Orchestra. We have people doing different things across campus that are based with the arts and humanities and trying to make connections between STEAM and STEM. We also are hosting lunch every day, and there's so much. I could go on and on and on about this, and I know we don't have much time, but please tell people to come. We hope to get this going on a regular basis every year. I think it's really, really important. We're working with the library to build a database of careers and showing what these careers are, are out there for kids to look at, not kids, but people in general. So I'm really excited. I'm hoping it will be successful, and there are a lot of details that we had to learn how to get right. Next time, it's going to have to, it's a trial and error, it's a pilot, but very excited. And we have a whole diversity of people. We have women engineers, and we have just everyone across the board, and I'm just amazed at how our community came together. Like, almost everyone I asked said yes. Like, that's pretty amazing, So, anyways, I had a card that I had planned so I could be more organized.
They all got on.
Yeah, but I'm just speaking off the cuff, and I would like to introduce you to Scott Heister. Scott Heister is the regional director for my STEM. Beautiful collaboration with Scott. And then across campus, so many people. Mike Duff really, really came forward and helped a lot. And we had student services, and we had all kinds of faculty from all across the board, career services, you name it. We also are in collaboration with the folks in CTE, so it's been really, really wonderful. Scott, would you like to say a few words?
So just if you aren't familiar with MySTEM is a fairly new statewide program. There are 16 regional directors across the state, and we hit 4 pillars. One is to create a STEM culture in a community. 2 is to empower STEM teachers, and so we provide a lot of professional learning for teachers. 3 is to integrate business and industry, which we really focused on here with getting companies like ZF. We have the CEO of Michigan Aerospace who's coming in. Several nonprofits that we have brought to the table, national speakers, so it is really kind of cool, and the community has really come together across the STEM field. We have Michigan Pipeline Connect, which is a STEM ecosystem director from Southeast Michigan. He is actually going to be our keynote speaker at our Thursday night event, and so I'll speak about our Thursday night event, and that is hitting the last pillar, the second pillar and the last pillar. The last pillar is actually to ensure high-quality STEM experiences for students, so that was really why this was done, to increase the level of STEM exposure to our student population. And on Thursday night, we are having a MySTEM and WCC are co-hosting a STEM Educator of the Year award ceremony. There are 2 educators from our 6-county region. I represent 6 counties across South Central and Southeast Michigan. And so we have a teacher from Heartland High School who's being awarded the STEM Teacher of the Year, and a teacher from Manchester Elementary, one of the elementary schools over there, that is being awarded the STEM
Innovator.
No,
Integration.
integration, sorry. STEM Integration Teacher of the Year. We are also awarding 2 student scholarship awards. There will be STEM scholars, students who will be attending WCC in their STEM Scholars program at that event. If anybody is interested, the registration for that closes tomorrow. In terms of the registration for that, the dinner, it is a sit-down dinner, really nice event. Senator Irwin is actually going to be here to speak, along with numerous superintendents and CEOs from across Southeast Michigan. So I encourage people to, Susan can get information to anyone about that event if they're interested in coming to that event. Thank you for being gracious hosts, and this is an absolutely phenomenal partnership. We are the envy of the other 16 regional or 15 regional directors who are looking at what we're doing as a model for what they can do in their regions.
Yeah. Thank you. I wanted to add one last thing too, just that we have a lot of people who are presenting who were former WCC students too. I took it to heart.
Well, we'd like to think that this is an annual event because we're so passionate about it. So we'd like to continue this, so funding and those types of things are gonna have to make it work. So the collaboration, but everything, the students, the WCC faculty, the players in business. This is the first time around, so we may have a few bumps and some things to figure out, but I'd like to call it an annual, so we would do it every year because it's, the ground swelling that we have right now on it is overwhelming for the handful that are trying to put this together. So we'd like to thank everybody that helped support it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, up next, we have the future skill report from SEMCOG. Diana, did you want to introduce Ms. Nahid Hook and Grant Brooks?
Yes. As everyone knows that my colleagues selected me a few years ago to be a representative from our school, Washtenaw Community College, to be a representative on the SEMCOG board. And since that time, I've been active in doing a lot of things that I have been asked to participate in, and I clearly jumped at the opportunity to do that so that I could learn more about SEMCOG and what is it that they do. So one of the things, this huge task that I was asked is if I could be a co-chair to be a part of the Future Skills Task Force, and it was about 2 years ago. And it was very, at the beginning it was daunting because it was a task that I didn't know too much about, but my colleagues, naturally, they were doing it, but not on the scale that they've come up with now. And this is going to be the report of myself and my co-chair, Nancy Sussick. And it was really a nice opportunity for us to be able to present throughout different schools in Wayne County and Oakland County, different places that we had to go to present. And believe me, it was a lot of participation from the audience, people coming and finding out and going to schools and trade schools and seeing what was being done in those areas to train the future skills for students, primarily high school students, but there were some older students there too, but it was really quite enlightening for me. The report includes 1 overarching and 4 broad recommendations and 32 actions and strategies to strengthen the talent development system in Southeast Michigan and to respond to 3 defining challenges facing the region: technological advances, demographic and social changes, and business trends. The recommendations focus on lifelong learning, building support for career pathways, promoting collaboration, and increasing labor force participation. Here tonight we have Ms. Nahid Hug and Mr. Grant Brooks here from SEMCOG to present a brief highlight of the Future Skills Report and recommendations. Nahid is the Manager of Talent and Economic Development at SEMCOG. She has been with SEMCOG for nearly 20 years. She focuses on education and education issues that affect economic development in the region and works closely with our education members along with Grant Brooks, membership specialist from SEMCOG. Grant works with Nahid, but also with other city, village, and township members to ensure that they are engaged with SEMCOG and understand the wealth of resources available to our members. These include data, training programs, and task forces. Grant has been with SEMCOG for 14 years. I also would like to say that SEMCOG represents 7 counties in Southeast Michigan, and I can't remember the total amount of people, but it's a lot of people from each county that is there. And I also have to give a lot of kudos to SEMCOG because the staff is truly professional. They take their work very seriously, and I I and other people who are participating on the board, and we're also on the executive board, like myself, we take whatever they say, we take for granted, not granted, but we take it like with, that they're to know what they're talking about because they've done their research, thorough research. So I would like to introduce Nahid and Grant, if you can come up to the podium.
Well, Diana, you actually took a lot of what I was going to say.
I'm
sorry. No problem at all. But I will say a couple of things maybe you haven't said. But good evening. Thank you for making time for us this evening to give a brief overview of the Future Skills Task Force report we have prepared for you all tonight. And of course, I'm here with my colleague Nahid. But you were alluding to a couple things about SIMCOG, and I'll get to that in a second, but let's just talk a little about the agenda we're going to have for tonight. So we're going to provide basically background on SIMCOG a little bit, and then discuss the Future Skills Task Force and defining challenges and policy recommendations. That's an important part here. So the report includes more than 60 case studies, including several from Washtenaw Community College. Task force is made up of 65 leaders from business, labor, and government. Co-chair, as Diana already kind of mentioned here, was herself and also Nancy. So we really appreciate, I want to say that you were very involved, Diana, and we're appreciative of everything you're giving to SIMCOG as you continue to do great work. So I want to say that. And also, Rose, you've been involved heavily as well. So we really appreciate your involvement with us. Now, just a little bit more about SIMCOG, maybe those of you who don't know a little bit more. It is 7 counties. We have actually 6 ISDs and 6 community colleges in our membership fold. We have 174 members overall. So that covers townships, cities, villages, as well. So it is a very big membership. We use membership dues as well as match federal and state grants to pay for data acquisition and analysis, planning and technical assistance to improve our region to support implementation of local plans. We work with all of our members in areas of transportation, environment, economic development and talent, and also education. So we also have a considerable amount of data and map resources that our members and partners use for their planning work. So we get a lot of requests. Now, each of our members, they vote to join. They, of course, I said pay dues, and they also appoint delegates and alternates to SIMCOG's General Assembly. So your representative is Diana, and then also she's the delegate, and then the alternate is Rose. So again, we really appreciate your help in all that you do. But I am going to turn it over now to Nahid. She's going to get to the meat and potatoes of why we're here and for you to learn.
If I may, and also Michelle Mueller attends the meetings if I can't make it. She's my alternate. So I'm her alternate, she's my alternate.
Very active as well, and we appreciate you too, Michelle, that you attention.
All right. Well, thank you, Grant. And I want to repeat, we really appreciate being invited to speak to the board. Of course, Diana Knight-Morton was our chair for the task force, and it was just a lot of work. And we had both Rose and Michelle Mueller active participants as well. And your knowledge and your participation was really sort of so well taken, and I think you'll see your presence in the reports and the recommendations. So what I'm going to say basically is, so why did we undertake this project on future skills? We know that despite a strong economy, there are many challenges facing our region and our workforce. Things like labor shortages in almost every key industry. We hear about misalignment of skills for available jobs, lack of career pathways, awareness, and readiness. We also know that there are many disconnected workers, and a lot of people need to be able to go to school, but they can't because they don't have the support services. So these are all things that we hear about constantly. The other thing is there are 3 defining challenges: technological advances, demographic changes, and business trends. that affect not just our economy in Southeast Michigan, but in Michigan and actually nationally and globally. These are things that are going to change the way we do business and the way we educate for the future workforce, because we need to be able to develop a competitive advantage. So what we did was we set up the task force, and then our goal was to identify and help develop the necessary education and training infrastructure to address future workforce skills and position Southeast Michigan for long-term economic success. That is the foundation of why we did the work. We need to make sure that we have the workforce that can do the work that helps us grow our economy. Of course, that's not the only reason we exist in education. We want to make sure that people are able to participate, people are able to fulfill their abilities and dreams. And so when we talk about economic development, it's both for the region, but also for individuals. So I mentioned 3 defining challenges. The first one is technological advances. So artificial intelligence, virtual reality, big data, robotics, 3D printing, comes out of your ears. There are so many things that are happening and that are changing the world of work. While the technology used in different industries might be different, we know that it's there. And in fact, a lot of employers say that they have the ability to buy the technology, but they can't find the workforce that has the skills to either do the work using the technology or even to maintain the equipment. So that's a big issue for us. Another major challenge is the speed of change. Technology is moving so fast, it's hard for our education systems to keep up with what needs to happen. And so, on the one hand, businesses need the employees. They can buy, but they can't use the equipment they have. And so our education system needs to respond to these changes and the needs of businesses by developing a workforce that has those digital skills. And I think I'm going to try and, in this presentation, mention a couple of things that are in the report. There are several case studies from Washtenaw Community College, but I'll mention a couple of them. So your Advanced Transportation Center, for example, is basically integrating and aligning skills for careers in the autonomous vehicle industry. We need to make sure that we, at Southeast Michigan, have the best workforce to do the things that we have been known for more than 100 years. So how do we make sure that we are leaders in the autonomous and mobility industries as it evolves to that mobility industry? And I think having the latest equipment, being able to teach people the skills that you need to do well in not just autonomous transportation, but also in healthcare, in terms of cyber security, all of those growing fields that are technology-based, we need to make sure that we have the workforce for those things. And again, healthcare is, a growing industry too. I'm going to go back to that in a second. So another second major defining challenge for our region is demographic changes. And one of the main things is that somehow every 5 years we do a 30-year plan in terms of what's the economy and what's the population going to look like over the next 30 years. And that helps us plan for whether it's transportation, environment, or economic development. So our population grew in the 1990s and then declined after 2001. Although we've seen a little bit of growth in the last few years, in the next 30 years, our population is going to be growing just by a modest 8%. And 8% sounds pretty good, except that that's just a third of the national rate. So we are falling behind there. We need to make sure we have people. The other factor that affects our demographic changes is that a lot of the growth, those 8%, a lot of that growth is actually in our senior population. And we love seniors, but in terms of the traditional workforce, the main traditional prime workforce, a lot of the people are in the older population. So our actual working age population, 25 to 64, is actually declining, as is the future workforce, people who are going to be between 0 and 24. So we have an older population. So we need to make sure that, one thing, we need to make sure that everyone is able to work. Everyone who's in the traditional working age population is able to work. But we also need to make sure that we can keep people in the workforce longer. So we actually project that about 46% of people between 65 and 69 will remain in the workforce, and even about 17% of the people who are 75 and older will remain in the workforce, and we're going to need everyone. So that's another trend that we're seeing. The next area, and I'll go through this a little bit quicker because I want to go to our recommendations, another area is immigration. So immigration is important to our economy because immigrants make up a significant part of our working population. Foreign-born individuals make up 10% of our population, but they make up 12% of our labor force. And even more strikingly, 45% of them have at least a bachelor's degree. So in terms of supporting the industries that are growing in this area, we need to make sure that we can continue having that. Our forecast assumes basic growth in our immigrant population, foreign-born population. But if it were to stop tomorrow, we would see a 10% decline in our population over the next 30 years. And that, that's includes our workforce. And if we were to cut it down by just half, we would still see a 10% decline in our population. So all of these make a difference to what our demographics look like, and therefore what our economy looks like, and therefore what the needs of our workforce is going to be. Finally, the third defining challenge is business trends. We talk about, businesses are changing because of technology and demographic trends, in addition to customer preferences. For example, the retail industry we know is declining in terms of number of jobs because of online shopping, a lot of sort of warehouses, so not the traditional brick and mortar stores. And so that's going to change the number of jobs available there. Manufacturing, which has been such an important part of our economy, will continue to be an important part. It will really keep anchoring our regional economy, but at the same time, we're going to have an issue with, we'll have fewer jobs, but each of the jobs will be require a higher level of education, skills. And so, yes, the number of jobs will decline from about 400,000 in 2001 to about 200,000 in 2045. So we're looking at basically the halving of that manufacturing workforce, but productivity will continue. And we need to make sure that as we see more automation in the manufacturing industry, how can we make sure that we have the skills, the workforce with the digital skills and the ability to use the information. The other thing is the growth areas are healthcare and professional technical industries, engineering, IT. So again, a lot of the focus of our education needs to be in those areas. So again, we want to be doing, and although on the one hand we're seeing about 6.7% growth in the number of jobs in the next 30 years, the problem is if we don't have the workforce, we might not have those jobs. And so it's creating a competitive advantage for our region. So with those ideas in mind, we developed a number of recommendations. And the main one is to transform the talent development system in our region by building on established assets. We have some great assets in the region, and we also need to make sure we partner with education, employers, and workforce development, as well as government, to develop, implement, and evaluate the strategies that support individual success and regional economic growth. Our 4 recommendations, Diana mentioned these before, but to create and promote a framework for lifelong learning, building support for multiple career pathways, promoting collaboration between employers, education, and workforce development, and increasing labor force participation by expanding the number of qualified workers. And I think Washtenaw Community College is doing all of these. So when I can, I'll bring in an example, but you're doing good work. So I think that really, you can see that by the focus on our recommendations. So in terms of lifelong learning, for example, this is education. This is learning that's developed over time, from early childhood to formal education and personal development. And so it's something that you do over your lifetime. It's based on continuous improvement and continuous learning. But to be efficient, successful, lifelong learning needs to be delivered in a convenient, flexible, and cost-efficient way. So online learning, blended learning, all of those things will help create the ability for people who are moving or transitioning through their lives to be able to come back to education and have access to the opportunities to learn, continue to learn, and meet their new desires. As the economy changes and the jobs change, how can they keep active? And one of the examples that I had in the report is the Washtenaw Community College Career Transitions Office. And this is the sort of thing that we need in terms of keeping people able to access the training and the education they need. So I think one of the statistics we heard was 15% of Washtenaw Community College enrollees have a bachelor's degree or more. So we're looking at that sort of reverse trend almost. You get your bachelor's degree, then you go back to the college. But that's part of lifelong learning. You need to keep your skills fresh. The economy is not going to wait for you. And sort of technology is not going to wait. So we need to make sure that we have the ability to keep on. The second recommendation area is career pathways. And this is basically like, this starts from K-12 all the way through post-secondary and into the workforce. We want to make sure that people are on career pathways that lead to good jobs in high-demand areas. So our region, to be successful, needs to have people with different skills, abilities, and competencies to fill a broad range of careers. And that all contributes to a robust economy. We don't all have to be doing the same thing, but everyone has to have access. But people will go different directions. But our economy needs to be robust or diverse, and I think a good education system provides different people with what they need at different times of their lives. Some of the actions for expanding career pathways is to expand student awareness, exposure, and exploration, but also, respecting different types of jobs. There's not just one type of job. We feel that we need to respect all types of jobs, regardless of how long it took you to achieve or get to that level, and regardless of the level of education and training needed to get there. So we need to sort of redefine success as well, so that everyone is part of our workforce. Our third area, and I think the example of STEAM Week a few minutes ago was talking about collaboration. So employer education, workforce development collaboration is key to any success. And that means, we need to connect numerous employers in the region, both large and small. We need to connect education institutions, K-12, community colleges, universities, and others, as well as workforce development, which means the public system, but also nonprofits and who provide a lot of work readiness, as well as labor organizations that provide apprenticeship programs. Those partnerships are key. And we're not going to be able to do it without those partners. So again, I think you're doing good things here. Our final recommendation, and I'm nearly done, is to increase labor force participation by expanding the number of qualified workers. So labor force participation is the number of people over the age of 16 who are either working or looking for work. So you can see on the graph on the left that labor force participation in Southeast Michigan has been declining. So right now, by 2017, our labor force participation was 62.3%. And that is the lowest of our peer metropolitan areas in the Midwest. So, for example, the average would be 66%, and the highest would be Minneapolis at 72%. For every 1% increase, we're talking about having about 39,000 more people in the workforce. So increasing labor force participation is really important. We have many people in our region that, I showed you the working age population, the prime working age population. Many of those people don't work for many different reasons, whether it's because they don't have access to opportunities, they don't have training, they may have some personal challenges that prevent them from getting to work. So I think what we need to do is make sure that we can increase funding for wraparound services, incorporate work readiness into all training programs, promote competency-based learning. These are some of the actions that we can do in order to create increased labor force participation. People with disabilities, veterans, returning citizens, all have challenges. How can we help to overcome them? Because it's in our own interest, ultimately. If we can get 1% more people working, that's a huge boost to our economy. So your adult transition sterile processing certificate pathway, I always have a hard time saying that, but a career in healthcare. Healthcare is one of those growth fields, one that's really growing fast. So if you can provide a program, a stackable credential for people who don't have, may not have the sort of skills or the opportunities to do the program. Thank you so much. So by providing sort of robust or intensive financial, emotional, academic supports, by providing digital literacy skills, by providing access to a healthcare pathway that is going to lead to a job. Those are the sort of things that need to be done. And that's another way that we can increase labor force participation in our region. So with that, I will say that our key messages are the talent development system in our region needs to respond to those three defining challenges: technology, demographic changes, and industry trends. We have to be quick. We can't stop and think about it. We have to think, we have to plan and be strategic, but we do have to work quickly as well because things are changing, especially with technology. We have many talent assets. So our community college system, our K-12, strong K-12 systems, all of those are part of our system. Our four-year universities are important assets. Let's build on them. Let's encourage collaboration because without collaboration, well, collaboration gives us access to many more resources. And that's one of the keys to reasons for collaboration. We also know that lifelong learning, career pathways, innovation, flexibility, and inclusion are key strategies for creating the future workforce and a stronger economy. And we still don't know exactly what the future is going to hold. So we have to be flexible and creative. But I think you're doing a lot of good work here, and we certainly appreciate your participation in the task force, as well as in leadership, as well as just your contributions and making our region stronger through the programs that you have. So with that, that's the end of my presentation. I hope I didn't go over too much, but
May I say something?
Yes, please.
Well, I think this report is very beneficial to educators because it helps us look at where the needs are. Although I know I'm not going to be here in 2045. I hate that part. Yeah, you never know, right? Yeah. But this really helps us align our strategic plan, how we develop our curriculum, the partnerships we create. So thank you so much for the work that you did on this report because it's very helpful to all of us.
thank you for the opportunity.
I just want to say again, I'm really, I know you were here before, and I'm glad you came back because before the report wasn't completed at that time, but now it is. And without a doubt, it was a challenge, I know, but it was really rewarding to go through a lot of it with you and Grant and getting this spread out across the county, not just Washtenaw County, but the other counties that we went to. And so I really appreciate you having me a part of your team. And it was really nice. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ruth.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions or comments. I guess my biggest concern is the lifelong learning aspect is about changing skills and the speed of technology changing. But is there still a sense in which we can teach people to learn so that when the next iteration comes, they have the math, they have the English, they have the technology to adjust? And if they don't get that from the beginning, they have to start way back in order to change. So whatever we can do in education to teach them to learn, or to teach them the basics, perhaps. I don't mean to make it a lower level, but the skills they need to change, not just the skills they need to turn the screw in one direction. And I'm a liberal arts person, so I think of that as being very important. Page 24, the list of skills you list, 4 of them have to do with communication, math, problem solving, those kinds of things that aren't specific to a skill, but will help be able to change to a new one. I like the emphasis on career counseling for jobs that aren't as obvious as others. I noticed on page 31 the sense of lack of diversity in the workforce. Our population is not only aging but browning. And I think that's an important thing for us to keep in mind with skills, training, and labor unions, and the inclusion of people of color to that. And finally, I was amused by the fact that nobody wants to be a teacher. I can understand that. The way this culture has put teachers down, but you're going to need teachers, and we may have to change that attitude a bit. But I thank you very much. It was a very interesting report. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments here? Go
I
ahead.
just want to ask another question. You think I know this, but I may know it, but I just want to be refreshed. What is the responsiveness from different manufacturing companies, the larger ones, not just automotive, but the larger automotive factories or corporations? Are they willing to work with SimCog to try to help identify some skills that their employees have that need to have upgrade or, to increase right now instead of later, but right now?
Yeah, in fact, I could maybe answer both of your questions together. So events and initiatives like Manufacturing Day, where manufacturing companies open their doors to K-12 students, mainly high school, but also middle school, is an example of how they're recognizing that it's in their own best interest to create the future pipeline for manufacturing jobs. And they have done, for the last probably 5-6 years, they've been opening their doors. One day a year isn't enough, and I understand that. But they are at the table. We had Ford, we had ITC, we had a DTE at the table talking about the sort of things that they need, the skills they need. And so a lot of our recommendations were based on what they need and how can our education systems help respond to those. So, the mobility industry, as an example, Ford considers itself a mobility company. I think GM does the same. It's no longer a car company or an automotive company. So those sort of things are really important. So your advanced transportation center is a response to that. And so I think manufacturers, are much more, they're not the experts at education, but they realize that they have to partner with education and workforce development in order to create that new workforce. And they're becoming more flexible about the sort of things that they do, how they train, how they hire. And so it's like a little bit more of skills-based hiring, recognizing that people can be trained to do things. And they're working with community colleges to develop sort of short programs that enable you to be eligible for, say, apprenticeships. So there's a lot of collaboration going on. So I think we're definitely seeing that. We're seeing employers willing to come to the table, but I think they need a little bit more guidance because they can tell us what they need, but you are the experts at developing the curriculum and responding to those needs. But the other thing, Ms. Hatcher, I totally agree with you. And I struggle to use the word soft skills. I've used it for many years, but those professional skills are critical. And we need to make sure that all our programs include that. Because Grant and I just came from a conference, a career education conference in Grand Rapids today. You're our stop before we get home. So we had heard from a speaker, a keynote speaker, about to get a competitive advantage, people, employees, students need to have robust academics. They need to have technical competence, and they need to have those professional skills. But a lot of the other sessions were saying, without the professional skills or soft skills, the communications, the teamwork, some digital literacy, but also work ethic, they're not of any good use to employers. Employers need people to turn up, and then they can be trained in collaboration with education institutions. But that's actually number one. And you mentioned the list, and it was a list of 10 skills that employers are looking for. I think 9 of them were actually soft skills. Mm-hmm. So they are critical. And our response to that is, as we develop training programs, so we really like career technical education, because it teaches not just the technical part of the work, but also the aptitudes you need and the personality almost that you need to succeed in a particular career field. So absolutely, it's very, very important.
We used to say that teaching someone to do a specific technical skill will get them the job, but the ability to read and write and think will enable them to keep the job and to be promoted. So they're both very important.
Right. One of the members of a previous task force said to us, we hire for technical skills, we fire for soft skills.
That's right, yeah.
Some truth in that. Any other questions or comments for our speaker? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very informative, thank you. Okay, up next, our special report on the Health and Fitness Center, VP Johnson.
Great, thank you very much. I'm also going to invite Dawn Lyons up, the center director, and we actually have a special guest. Tonight is, not that Dawn's not special, but also to include Patrick Colvin. And Patrick has been a longstanding member of the Medical Advisory Committee. So we thought we would spend a little bit of time, we haven't done this in the past, to also give the board a bit of an insight into the role that the advisory committee has played at the center and the broader community. So Bill, Dawn, Patrick. So tonight we'll tag team this here tonight for you. Just some highlights about the center over this past year. You've heard us say this before, but frankly, especially at peak times, the center has hit capacity. If you've been there during the evening or the early morning, it's pretty much at capacity. And that's kudos, frankly, to Dawn and her team, the college community as it supports the center, and frankly to the community for them seeing the value of our center itself. You'll see in a bit student membership is stayed about level, up, down a little bit, but basically level. We'll talk about kind of the pieces that really drive that. We continue to make significant investment in the center itself, facilities-wise and in the equipment for it. Ancillary services is becoming a bigger part of the center. Community members want to partake not only in what's out on the floor, but they want a structured approach to it to meet their specific needs. And Dawn and the team have done some really great work to try to address those needs. One of the ways that we measure how well that we're meeting the needs of our community is what we call the secret shoppers score. And it stayed very, very high. We've got some trends that will show you, but 92 is very, very high. The Next Steps program has been an evolving and growing program for us, and we're very, very proud of how that's worked for us, and the Medical Advisory Committee was a very important part of that for us. And last but not least, when the board first approved to build the center, to open the center, it was under the premise that on average over time that we would be able to not only have enough revenue to pay for the operations, but for debt costs and for ongoing deferred maintenance. And I'm pleased to say for a number of years in a row now that we have been able to do that. On the next slide, you will see that we actually are. You can see that our revenue has constantly grown. We're up about $5.6 million in revenue, and that our operating cost has grown commensurate with that. And so that if you look at our net operating income, it's been enough to be able to satisfy not only the bond payment, about $1.2 million, but also the deferred maintenance and capital improvements. And the second to last line is really important. So between $500,000 and $600,000 a year in ongoing deferred maintenance, just to keep the center at a level that supports the community. And so we've been doing this now for 3 years strong. And we continue to support that going forward. If you look at our number on the next slide, you'll see that from the heyday of the center, from a student standpoint, we've diminished a little bit. That's the green, but it's maintained itself over the last few years, and that really tracks with the enrollment of the college as well. So it's tracked pretty well along. The blue is the community members, and there's been significant growth. And that growth is really a good indication of how well that the community values the center and the way that we've been able to serve the community for that. A little bit deeper slice on the next slide, you can kind of see the trends by each of the member segments, if you will. And community members, we've grown from about 4,200 members in fiscal 18, now up to about 4,800 members currently. Medical integration is one of those areas that, again, very unique, very, very specific, very important way that we can serve the community. Student members, you can see, have stayed relatively flat, 729 to 700 is our current year forecast for that. So you really get a chance to see where our members come from, but the biggest area of growth has been in community and in medical integration. We've seen nice growth. I'll turn it over to John.
Great. So one of the areas that we wanted to, working with Val here, is the completion rate of our PEA, which has kind of remained kind of consistent over the last couple of years, but the completion rate, where we were averaging about a 48% completion rate, we now have that up to a 66% completion rate. And what we started to do was to offer orientations for all the students at the center. They would come in, we would share the expectations that we had and also what was available to them. We wanted to make sure that they were taking advantage of all the classes and the assessments and the equipment orientations, that they had the same access to everything that a community member did, our workshops. And then it also gave them an instructor a face that they were emailing, because previously the course did not have that. So the instructor would show up, go through the course expectations, how they were going to get a pass for the class, because it's a pass-fail class. So those orientations have made a big difference in the completion rate that we've had with the students. We've also had an increase in our non-PEA members, which is kind of helping to offset a little bit of the downcline in the PEA. We've also, I'm trying to make even more efforts to be in the lobby this week. We're out there, from 11 to 2 just to meet with students, giving them a pass, come try the center. We always want to make sure that we show up when we're invited to show up for things like the Mental Health and Wellness Fair. We provide flyers to prospective students so that they can try out the center.
So one of the things that we had gotten some feedback from the board a couple of years ago, actually, in this anticipation, was there any other way that we could help to attract students? And one of the questions that was asked is, do you think that our member dues, especially for our non-PEA students, was an obstacle? So we went back and looked at it, and between John and myself, we really believe that a 10% drop in the rate was going to have a beneficial effect to the students, and it did. And so while we've been able to maintain community member rates, as you see on this graph here, very modest increases, actually the student member rates over the duration have actually fallen. And that has really helped. And we're watching that very, very closely. Is there an obstacle there?
And then just want to touch a little bit on our member satisfaction, just the center usage. Just briefly, we've stayed pretty consistent. I think last year our survey, we were down a little bit, but we needed to address some facility concerns, some real issues that we had, and I know that the board is aware of those, and we have. And so I'm excited to tell you tonight, even we do daily surveys where we were averaging 65%, we're now averaging 74, 75%. And I feel our staff is freed up to be able to address other issues besides some of the facility issues. So thank you so much for that. And we're also about 20,000, as far as utilization, 20,000 check-ins more than we were at this time last year. So it's being used more.
Wow.
Also, we've, as a staff, we've taken a look at what we're offering to our members and to community members, and we've made an effort that at least monthly, we're offering something free to the community, as well as to our members. And in the area of education, whether it's fitness, and you can see some of the things that we've listed, lifting for life, maybe GI, health, yoga, nutrition, where we have meal prep, cooking demos, and addressing some of those issues like carbohydrates and is it harming your health. And then we also partner with Probility Physical Therapy, and Patrick will have a chance, but he brings in his team and they will do a free assessment on someone who has an injury. And we make sure that our student athletes, maybe they hold off going to the doctor, or it's a problem for them to go to the doctor. It's an opportunity for them to come and be assessed by a physical therapist to see if they need further treatment. We also partner with different organizations in the community, especially nonprofit, like community service, SOS Community Services, where our members will donate food and we help them. They'll call us when they have a shortage in their food bank. We help at the WCC food pantry. And one of them that we've partnered with is just the Moore Foundation. Our members have donated 17 boxes, they're huge FedEx box of athletic shoes. And the purpose of that is they resell those shoes and they are trying to reforest Ghana, and that provides each tree about $300 worth of income over a 10-year period, and it's giving jobs to school children and a way for them to earn a living. And there's just other lists of organizations that we partner with.
One of the other things that we do, so it really has not been any mistake that we've been able to grow the member base to be able to better support our community. So with our partnership with Power Wealth Wellness, about every other year, they hire an outside firm to do an analysis of the market, because the market changes over time. And through that market analysis, we then can best understand where our center can best serve the community. So these are some of the highlights from the latest analysis that we did. So we were able to really look at generation by generation, market segments in those generations, who's at the center, and given the other competition of other centers, where is it that we can best serve? That are the core member households for our markets grew by close to 1,400 households. The average drive time for our members grew from 15 minutes to 16 minutes. It doesn't sound like much, but if you looked at a map of where the other fitness centers were, that extra mile is a big deal. Right. It really shows that our center is offering good value for our members. The market penetration for us went up from about 1.5% to 8.5%. And that the households have also grown. Medical integration, and we'll talk a bit more about that in a minute, has been a really big area that we've been able to create kind of a unique way of serving our community. And retention is another really important part. It's just not about new members, but how do we retain members, and we work hard on doing that.
So, I don't think we've talked about a lot in the past, but we would label ourselves as a medically integrated fitness center. So we're certified by the Medical Fitness Association, and that's a 2-day process where they bring in outside surveyors and they go through everything we do. Do we actually do what we say we do? Do we have documentation? It's almost like a joint commission for a hospital. It's what we do for a fitness center. And part of that process, we will recertify this July for the 3rd time, because we have to go through that process every 3 years. But part of that process is we have to have a medical advisory committee, and we have area physicians. We even have one of your deans, Val, sits on that, as well as Patrick Hogan, and he is president and CEO of Probility Physical Therapy, and he has been on the medical advisory committee since its inception in 2018. So I'm going to let him come and talk a little bit about the medical advisory committee.
Hi, nice to meet you. So I think that what's interesting is if you're going to have something like the Health Fitness Center be a part of Washtenaw, I hope that it's something that you can be proud of with that. And one of the things I think is interesting is that the medical aspect of it is one of the things that really differentiates the Health and Fitness Center from Planet Fitness, and it is interesting, the comment before about the silver sneakers, it's a great comment, but you really can't compare the Health and Fitness Center to a Planet Fitness, or these 24 hours. They're just dramatically different. And I think that what is interesting is that if you take a look at the fact that it's MFA certified, and I think that you guys probably have to go through different certifications as well, that's not a fun process. It's 2 days of not fun. And I think that it's an important thing that it allows the Health and Fitness Center to be aligned with St. Joe and IHA and a company like Probility. And I think it's also interesting that Probility has literally half of our PTAs that are physical therapist assistants that are part of Probility come from Washtenaw. And that's not a surprise. If we talk about kind of, Bill makes a great point about it being part of our community. I think that we are an integrated part of the community with the Health and Fitness Center, with St. Joe, with IHA, with Probility, and I think that's a great thing. And I think that, facilities like Washtenaw, Health and Fitness, as well as community college, need to always work together and integrate together. And that's one of the things that we do. And so I think that you take a look at the Medical Advisory Board, there's 2 physicians, Corey Dean and Frank Smith. Corey Dean is a physician with IHA. Frank Smith is the head of cardiology with St. Joe, and I'm with Probility. And we're always looking every year at what the board makeup is, and is it appropriate? Do we need to add? Do we need to remove people if they're not attending? Et cetera. But I do think that when you take a look at next steps, which was described before, we have a number of people that go right from the physical therapy facilities in the area, from doctors, offices in the area, and then come right to the Health Fitness Center. And they're part of this next steps, medically integrated fitness programs, and that's a big deal because no one else offers that. And it's kind of cool that it's here. And so the Medical Advisory Board, when we review things, we're looking at things like the AED process. And I joke with my own staff that if I'm gonna have a heart attack, I think I'd rather have it at Washtenaw Health and Fitness than I would at one of our own clinics. Because these people, it's amazing how they will go through drills and they'll do stuff like they'll throw a baby mannequin into the pool. And then literally someone will walk into the pool, do that, and then the staff have to react. And it's impressive, the logs that they make of this stuff. They save people. And one person on the track in the last year had a heart attack. And they reacted immediately, saved him basically, and it was really interesting because it wasn't this typical heart attack, but brought him right to St. Joe. And it's one of these things where you can be really proud of what they do here. And that to me is a really big deal. So on the whole, I'll also say my wife's a member here, my son's a member here, my father-in-law's a member here. And I think it's a big deal, so nice to meet you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Other things, so we not only have a great medical advisory committee and community engagement, we not only have a really strong partner to help operate the center, but the college, and Dawn mentioned this, through the facilities team, they work in collaboration with Dawn daily. There's regular meetings that they have with them. How do we make sure that the facilities is at its highest place that it can and needs to be? In addition to that, there's a lot of major projects that we do. And I just wanted to list a few that we've done here in fiscal 19 and what's on deck for 20. So this just past year that we installed a new domestic hot water system. The women's spa was completely rebuilt. The free weight area, which was in really high demand, that we actually were able to expand that. Dawn and her team were really creative in thinking about ways of trying to grow that out. There were new filter systems put in. There was new private handicap accessible showers that we added. We added security systems for it. If you look at the next page here, we added new filter systems for the lap pool. We added 2 new boilers. We added new spin bikes. So we're always looking to make sure that our equipment is safe and is relevant to what members are looking for today. And then last but not least, that we improve the phone system and servers. If you look at what's on deck within this next year, our lap pool, we need to resurface the lap pool. The men's spa needs now to be rebuilt. The locker rooms need to be updated. The steam rooms need to be rebuilt. We need to expand the laundry room. So once again, what's important is that we have enough revenue, net of operations, to be able to support debt service and things like that. I'm pleased to say that we have continued to do that. So in summary, the center continues to be a strong partner and resource for the community, a strong partner and resource for our students, and we are going to continue to make it strong in the upcoming years. And the three of us are glad to answer any questions. We're not going to ask questions.
Any questions?
No, but thanks for sharing with us.
How many people are members here? Come on, more.
I've got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
You were talking about silver sneakers going to come up. Well, from my package, from where I retired, we do have that opportunity to have silver sneakers. And I am a part of another group. And it's beneficial for people over 65.
Sure.
And that's the purpose of it, for seniors.
Yep.
And I'd like to know, what type of programs do you offer for seniors there?
We offer, a lot of our classes are geared towards seniors. We have yoga classes that are geared towards seniors, some of them even in a chair, so you wouldn't even have to get on the floor. A Pilates-based class that's in the chair as well. And then just a general exercise class. We also offer special reformer classes that address osteoporosis, balance, and we also have some of the classes that are geared, like called gold classes, Zumba Gold. And sometimes we just look at who's attending. So a class will organically kind of get geared towards a senior because that's who's showing up to take the class. And the one thing nice about our staff is we hire people with 4-year degrees. Some of them have masters. All of our group exercise instructors are certified. And so the one thing with silver sneakers, there's 10 so many exercises, and you have to stick to their program. But we're hiring people who have better qualifications and can adapt, because you might get somebody in your class that they have special needs that even silver sneakers is not going to address. And so I think that's one thing that we offer, is the ability to help individuals who maybe might not even do well in the silver sneakers class, or maybe they start at silver sneakers, but they need to progress. We don't just stop with those couple classes that you take.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes.
You also offer pre- and post-surgery classes
We
for
do.
all those seniors who are getting cut. Yes.
That is true. And that's part of the next step, is the, getting somebody ready for surgery, because we do know, and statistics show, that if you go into an 8-week exercise program before you go into a knee replacement, you're going to have a much shorter recovery time, and you will bounce back quicker as well.
Go ahead. I have another question.
Yes.
Now, I'm beyond the silver sneaker thing. Students, the enrollment for students, is there a reason why, or you still haven't figured out yet, why there's a decline in the student participation?
Student participation has been tracking with our enrollment trends generally. So it's stayed about proportional. But we've been able to actually do even a little bit better than that because we lowered the rate. One of the things that we are going to see, because of changes in financial aid laws, is that we do have limits as to the number of credits for the PEA course that students can take. And so that's having a little bit of an impact. But this rate reduction that we were able to do, and the work that Dawn's staff is doing in trying to engage, has helped. And also, the faculty has been great. They have been thinking about ways of utilizing the fitness center and integrate curriculum in use of the center within that. So we're finding other ways to engage students beyond the ways that we have in the past. And that's kudos to our faculty for working on that.
So this isn't an elective, this is something that's a part of them
It's full, so we definitely have elective, but then in some courses, they're finding ways to integrate the use of the center as part of the course curriculum as well.
Okay, okay.
Any other
Thank
questions
you.
or comments? No? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, the next special report, our Blackboard update, VP Hearns.
All righty, I'm back again. So in the fall, we had some questions at a board meeting about midterm grades. And so we wanted to provide some updates that address some of those questions. And I'm going to be providing a Blackboard update because although most of us think about Blackboard as our learning management system, it has a lot of features like a very robust grade book that allows us to provide our students with continuous feedback. So I have a few slides. Okay, all right. Okay, so one of the things I think that's important, first and foremost, is that above and beyond midterm grades, we think it's important that all of our students are getting continuous feedback and to know what their grade is in every single class. And our goal has been to increase the use of the Blackboard grade book. So Blackboard allows the faculty to do online courses, to share syllabus, assignments, but again, one of those big things that is a feature of Blackboard that we want to see some increased usage of is the Blackboard grade book. And so what that allows is for students to log on to Blackboard at any point in time and see what their current grade is, see what their grades on assignments are, and that transcends our online courses. That's for both our face-to-face and our online courses. And so the belief that students, deserve this continuous feedback and that we're working toward a goal of increased gradebook usage is important for us from an administration standpoint, but it's also a shared goal with the WCC CEA because we've made a lot of changes over the last few years. And one of those big changes has been that all of our courses now at the college have a Blackboard site. So what that means is that a face-to-face class where English 111 is being taught, that happens in the LA building, and that same course that happens online, all of those courses actually have a Blackboard site automatically, regardless if the faculty requested. In addition to that, we've done a lot of things around faculty support because one of the things when you're implementing technology or expanding features of technology, we need to make sure that everybody can use it. And so there's been professional development and the implementation of a faculty Blackboard help desk to provide the faculty with whatever assistance they may need to set up the grade book and to make sure those grades are weighted and set up in the system correctly. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, in the next slide, about where we're at right now, but I think it's important to note that our goal for fall 2020 is to increase the use of our grade book by our faculty to 75%. And then one of the ways that we're going to do that is that right now, grades are submitted in a separate system from Blackboard. So we're going to implement a system called the Intelligent Learning Platform that will allow faculty to use Blackboard for their grade book, but those grades will automatically update to our actual computer system Banner, which is where we submit grades, both throughout the year. And again, that's going to be important because advisors and other people who might want to know updates on our students, they'll be able to see that in our Banner system. So let's talk a little bit about where we're at now, because we want to get to 75%. I want to give a couple highlights. So one of the things about Blackboard is that, again, there's a lot of features in Blackboard, and our goal has been to increase the gradebook usage. So if you look here on these two graphs, you'll see that we kind of we got a key here that highlights what is high usage, low usage, and static usage. And high usage is the area that we want to improve most, which is the use of our gradebook. So that means that there's weekly gradebook activity and there's consistent Blackboard activity from faculty and students. Low usage means that both faculty and student activity are documented, but there is no use of the grade center. The final area is static use, which is there's limited logins and no grade center. So if you look at the graphs here, you'll see that we kind of benchmarked fall 2016 in regards to our progress in faculty Blackboard usage. And when you look at kind of the small piece that I'm highlighting here in red, Our high usage is currently at 46.9%. We've of course had, because we've given all faculty Blackboard sites, an increase in the number of Blackboard sites that are actually created. We've had an increase in all of the levels of usage and then the decrease in our low usage, because those are now in that static area. And so the most important piece where I think we've seen the most progress is in high usage. We've gone up 38% since 2016 in the amount of gradebook usage. And that is the area where we want to improve most, because we want students to be able to have continuous feedback on what's going on in their classes, what their grades are, if they have any questions, or if the advisor or somebody wants to work with the student, they would be able to do that. Any questions?
I think 46.9% is an F grade.
Yeah.
That's absolutely unconscionable. I do not understand this. I know many of our faculty, having had students in this august institution, if a student doesn't hand their assignment in on time, they get 0, and they're graded as such. And for our goal to be 75%, why isn't it 100%?
Well,
That just doesn't make sense to me. This is literally putting your grades in a spreadsheet. This is something that we would expect a 7th grader to be able to do in this environment. And we can't expect master's and PhD level faculty to do this better than on a 46.9% basis. It makes me sick to my stomach that this is the way we are performing. This is like the worst data I've seen in my 16 years here at the college. I don't understand it. Blackboard has been a part of this institution for how long now? We paid how many tens of millions of dollars? I'm getting very upset about this. This is unacceptable. I want another report on this in 4 months. And I want to see these numbers increase substantially. Just one trustee saying it. But we have students here who are entitled to continuous feedback. If this is why places like Coursera and places in all these other online platforms are kicking our butts, because you get instantaneous feedback from these folks. They pride themselves on that kind of feedback. And this is antiquated, it's wrong, and I expect better from this faculty. I'm shocked at this data, just shocked at it.
I guess I agree to a certain extent with your comment. As a student, I can speak as a student, former student. My user experience as a student has been mixed. Sometimes my stuff is in Blackboard, sometimes it's not. Sometimes teachers utilize more features of Blackboard, sometimes they don't. But I do agree with Rick there that in the very least, the bare minimum, we should all be able to get a grade, and so I'm glad that you're tackling this.
And I agree. I think that it is important that students have continuous feedback, and I think that we've established a goal, and I'm confident we're going to exceed it. Every class has a Blackboard site, which had not happened, and the support for the faculty to make sure that they are trained and know how to use the technology and set the grade books up correctly. We're tackling all those problems right now, and so I do not disagree.
We're training kids for STEAM, but we can't get faculty to fill out a damn spreadsheet on a timely basis? Seriously? Everybody should be ashamed of this. Everybody should be ashamed. These students have a right to go in and see their grades, let's say within a week of when the assignments are due. It should be done on a regular basis. And the fact that, they can't even get midterm grades better than a 47% basis. I'm absolutely appalled at this.
It's going to get better.
I don't mean to beat up on you for this, but obviously we haven't been paying attention to this. I've been getting feedback, just based on my, role as I'm on the board of of WTMC. So there, it's even more important and critical for these younger students who don't have as much college experience. But then again, WCC and all of the community colleges in this state are dealing with at-risk populations. And, you think you're doing great in a course and suddenly the professor catches up and you realize, oh my God, I'm only getting a C. I thought I was getting an A. I thought I had one level of participation. It's not. It's demoralizing. It drives people away, and it's not what this institution should show.
And it's not what the institution stands for. And at any point, if a student was not getting continuous feedback, whether it's in Blackboard or not, myself, none of the academic deans, or any faculty member here would deem that to be acceptable. And so I think that is an important, there are a lot of ways that students are getting feedback right now. I agree that with this technology, it should be more consistent in Blackboard, which is why we have a goal, and we're going to reach that goal and increase that usage and support the faculty in doing that. But faculty are providing students with feedback, I think, as Trustee Fleming said, in a variety of ways. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. It's going to improve as far as our usage of Blackboard. And I think having this goal and the improvements we've made in a short amount of time, we're going to continue them, and I'm confident that we'll get those numbers up.
Yeah, and I would expect, I would want people's compensation to be based on this. I just, how good a teacher can you be if your students don't know how good a student they are? Trademark that. And I think we should probably, be looking, and again, I'd like to see these numbers again at the close of the semester. I'd like to see whether, we were able to make any meaningful dent in this, by, say, May of this year. I'd like to see these numbers. And if there isn't substantial improvement, I don't know. We're going to have to start thinking about how we change things. At least I am.
Did you have a question, Ruth?
Yeah, I would like to see in the next report of this in May, what other ways students get feedback on their grades besides Blackboard. Because I think faculty do give students feedback on their grades on a regular basis with or without Blackboard. So showing the Blackboard numbers is, it's low, but it doesn't necessarily reflect the faculty who are informing their students on a regular basis what their grade is. And it's a harder job this is easy to get, but to talk maybe department by department, how do you give students their grades and make that part of the survey?
Okay.
Have you been happy with the service and support you get from IT to support these efforts with Blackboard?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And like I said, in the fall, we're going to be implementing a new tool that will allow grades to move from Blackboard to Banner. And I think it'll make it a lot easier for faculty to actually use the grade book because it will be the conduit for final grades, for all grades. So currently, our grading system is separate than Blackboard. And so we will be integrating that in the fall.
Well, and my final comment on this is that, I certainly recognize that students are responsible for understanding their performance. Okay, I get that. I also recognize that this is an institution that helps students who've been challenged in other environments, become better students. And I do think continuous feedback helps in that regard. But there's another aspect to this that is, critical importance. We have some students who are receiving academic support from parents, who are receiving academic supports from tutors, who are receiving academic support from significant others and peers, and some who need some regular monitoring. And if those support systems can't, if you've got a 17-year-old, who's been blowing off class, and you don't find that out until, it's past the drop ad period, it's past the part where you can get refunded tuition, it's past the part where your student can stay engaged in their class. We're hurting these kids, and we're hurting the people who are trying to support these kids. And we got a lot of young people, very young people, who are taking our college courses now, and this is where they're getting their first taste of college, and a lot of people are trying to support them to try to do that. And if they can't look online and find out what their kids' grades are, those people, their efforts are going to nothing, and and we're not helping them, and we're here to help them.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
I think we could help them if we had more counselors. Do parents have access to Blackboard?
If somebody
their
gives them
children.
the login,
If the
anybody
students
has
give them
it.
login, they will.
If the students
If the
give them
students
the
give them
login,
login.
otherwise
students
it's not
have-
legal for them to have that information. The other thing I'd like to see in the report is a report of complaints by students about their grades. How often does that happen every semester? How often do students show up in the department chair or the dean's office saying, I never knew what my grade was? I'm surprised at my grade and I want to challenge that. I'd like to see the numbers of students who do that.
How would they
I don't
know
know
that,
if we do that.
that there's a way to do that?
Because they got their grade like,
I
as
think,
you
you know what,
said.
that's a great idea. Let's advertise an email box, a dedicated email box for students to send complaints about updates, about their grades not being updated on Blackboard.
Absolutely, they
Let's
do it all the
that.
time.
Yeah, well,
I'd
you're
like a
saying you want a
report.
survey. I'm saying, I don't think they even know they can complain.
Well, they do know they
Well,
can.
why don't we advertise that a little bit more?
They do know they can complain.
Well,
That's ridiculous.
let's advertise it.
They
Let's
do know
make
they can
sure
complain.
everybody's laughing.
And the student who says,
don't-
I got a C and I thought I was getting an A, how many of those do
I
we
would like to see, I would like to see that data too. I would like to see that data, and I'd like the students to be able to know that there's a way to be able to funnel their data to Dean Hearns so that it can be a part of this presentation, and we can see how many students are
can
complaining
have a
about this.
copy of
I
students'
think
rights and responsibilities.
unfortunately, it'll be an unpleasant piece of information when we get it.
We'll see.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Survey's not a bad idea.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to reports. There are monthly reports. Tab B, the personnel recommendations. The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees approve the personnel recommendations as listed.
So
Do
moved.
I hear a motion? I need the first motion.
So moved.
Moved, okay, and
Second.
second, okay, thanks. Any discussion on the personnel recommendations?
I have questions.
Go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to thank, I guess, Chris, for differentiating between professional faculty and classified professional services and so forth. I really, really appreciate that, with the part-timers and so forth. I'd like to congratulate the Reverend Tucker for his new position, but it ain't here yet, so there you go. I have a question about the Director of Marketing. Is that, was that formerly a manager position, and now it's a director position?
No, we replaced Brendan Preble, who
Okay.
ended up resigning from the college.
Okay, so this person is replacing Brandon Bevo?
Yes,
Okay.
he's, yeah.
And Brendan was an AVP,
Yeah,
and this is a director.
I understand that. I just was concerned about the titles, not the, okay, let me make a note, sorry. Is Michael Schute going to be replaced in motorcycle?
We already replaced that position.
Okay, good. In the custodian ranks, are there 1 or 2 vacancies? Do we know? Under custodians? Or none? You don't know, right?
I'm not sure offhand.
Okay,
You can check
all right.
that.
And Tina Casoli has been around for a long time in that position, right?
Well, go ahead. Because
Whatever.
I see
Whoever.
he's not here, Phil's not here, so I was going to answer. Oh, there you
He's
are.
here.
Hi.
He departed for personal reasons and returned
Okay.
5 months later after a search. She reapplied.
Returned, okay, good. I guess that's good. And I want to congratulate Chris and welcome, and I look forward to working with you.
Any other comments on the personnel recommendations?
I
Go
do
ahead.
have one comment. We want to introduce our newest dean. Dr. Jimmy Baber is the new Dean of Advanced Technologies and Public Service Careers. He joined us at the first of the year. He hit the ground running, and AVP Tucker has been there very helpful in transitioning, helping with that transition. Dr. Baber comes to us from Grand Rapids Community College, where he was Associate Dean. He also has experience teaching in the criminal justice field. He worked at Mott Community College, and he started his career as a police officer And so we welcome them to the college.
Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Did you want to add any other comment to the report? No, you're good?
Wait, may I-
You want to add anything?
Well, Michelle, would you like to, I see your directors here.
Oh,
Yes,
more
I can
people.
introduce Colleen Villa, who is the Director of Marketing. Colleen came, has earned her BAS. She worked for Lake Michigan Community College, and she also, well, she recently just came from the University of Miami, Ohio.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Great. All right. Any other questions or comments? Anything? Okay. All in favor of accepting the report, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. All right, moving on to tab C, the financial report. The recommendation is that the Board of Trustees receive the financial reports for December 2019 as follows: General Fund, Deferred Maintenance Fund, Capital Fund, and Combined Schedule of Investments, all funds. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Thank you. Okay, VP Johnson, do you want to add anything for us first?
Just a couple of highlights
Okay.
for the board. So we're better than planned year to date, about 1.2 million. You'll note that revenue is about 200,000 better than planned. A lot of ups and downs. If you look at the enrollment side, as we have been reporting, that enrollment has been down a little bit from budget and from last year. That new student count has been about right on par, and continuing students has been down, and that's really kind of threefold: the strength of the economy, low unemployment, and the strong success rates that we've been able to achieve with our students. The combination of those three has accounted for a very modest decline in continuing students. The good news is that summer enrollment, the good summer we had last summer, along with our forecast for this summer, we think will at least partially offset that tuition decline for the year. Also good news is both state aid and property tax revenue is trending above budget. The state aid in large part because in the final budget, the state allocated additional money to help with the rising cost of the MEPSERS plan, and that was not anticipated. They had said that was a one-year benefit, and they've extended that yet for a second year, so that's a great upside for us. And secondly, on property taxes, we're up a little bit, and that's largely because the amount of prior year refunds is down, and that's been a benefit for us. So revenue is well in hand, at or slightly better than budget. Costs, you'll note, are below budget by about $1 million. Most of that is in personnel, and most of that relates to full-time vacancies in independent staff and OPT and temp staff. And we're doing better than the budget assumption that we have there. Some of that is timing in that, but some is permanent too. So overall, we think that the college will, at a minimum, hit a balanced budget, if not a little bit of surplus for the year.
Okay. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
If the reduction in staff, the ones you mentioned, become permanent, will they be reflected in next year's budget as unfilled or unavailable or non-existent? Do you see what I mean?
Yep, most of that it's rarely is permanent. There is
Yeah.
constant churn.
Sure.
So, in any given month, you'll have had a bunch of new hires and then a bunch of new departures. And so it's rare that variance is permanent in nature from year to year, because it's just constant turnover within.
Well, I
the
thought you
same.
said some of them might be permanent.
So permanent savings for this year,
permanent
but not
savings.
necessarily, and only because there's been more turnover and therefore more vacancies than what I had assumed in budget, which was on average around 20 vacancies, and we've been averaging closer to 30 vacancies across the whole college. And only one or two of those is in the faculty ranks.
Right. Under investment income, that's negative. I wouldn't see that on the investment income page, would I?
You would see, so The investment income, if you look at page 2,
Yeah.
and you look at investment income, it's showing a negative year-to-date variance,
Right.
about 69,000.
Right, but I won't see that on page, what is it, 4 or 5? I won't see
Page
that on
4 or 5, no, because that's
Okay.
not trending to budget. That's just showing you kind of the makeup of our entire investment portfolio.
And also, under general administration, institutional services, the $1 million, is that timing or?
That is all, so that is, in that line item is where we hold the vacancy savings
Okay,
for the
all right.
college.
I think I knew that, yep, thank you.
So,
Other questions? Comments? Okay, any other comments for us? All right. You good? Okay. All right, all in favor of accepting the financial report, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, moving on to tab D, the Facilities Development Report. VP Johnson again.
thank you. The holiday break, along with going into the start of the year, was a very busy time for facilities. And we were so thankful not only for their dedication, but also frankly for the campus, because it takes a lot of cooperation amongst the campus. So we finished a number of major projects over break. One major project is, actually two are still ongoing. The second floor of the liberal arts building, the flooring and facelift that we're doing it, was right on schedule in that we demoed all the old flooring. We demoed all the old wall covering, started our paint work, and got the subfloor down. And on third shift, now we're laying down the new floor, the second floor of LA, and that'll be done sometime towards the end of next month in February with that. The other really major project that's still ongoing is the replacement of our cooling tower for the Energy Center. That's a very significant project, about $1.4 million, and that's on schedule to be done in March. One other big project that was done during break was the laboratory hood replacement. So it was about 24 hoods that were done, and those were all completed right on schedule and time for courses to begin.
That's great.
Thank you.
Do you have any other questions, Ruth?
I do.
Go ahead.
The lights in the Children's Center and the hot water in the Children's Center, were those the only two improvements or modifications that were due for the Children's Center?
For this year, we have a 5-year plan.
Right, I
that will
remember other
include more.
things that were there in the future. Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to ask this, and I probably already know the answer, but the township permitting for campus repair maintenance project number 2, exterior messaging signage.
Yes.
Are you anticipating any holdback on that from the township?
Well, we have to ask for a variance from current code. We think we have a good shot at getting that variance, but it has to go through the proper hearing process for that. So that just takes time. So we're hopeful.
Okay.
So.
I would say good luck.
Yeah.
Been down that road before.
Wrong township.
Yeah, just one more question. When are they going to start working in this building?
So we actually, we started that planning work about 3 years ago.
Right.
And started to stop taking bookings for this about 2 years ago. The board approved the funding for it in December. We are actually forming the bid package as we speak. It's going to bid on February 25th. We are going to be bringing the proposed contract for the renovation at the March board meeting. And the actual work will start in January. It's a 6-month window that we have to do all the work from January to June. There's a lot of long lead items that we'll need to start to order as soon as the board approves the contract. But we'll actually start work in January
21.
21. It'll be done by June 30th of 21.
Okay.
6 months.
God willing, and the creek don't rise.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Part of the reason that it's taken so long is, as you can imagine, we are booked, our facilities are booked every single year. And we have long-standing clients, and for them to be able to find another space to be able to hold their events, you know, for the time period that we're going to be closed is very difficult. So we had to give them enough time to be able to find another site to be able to locate. And of course, we want them to come back. So we really needed to make sure that we took care of them and made sure that we gave them enough time to be able to locate briefly so that we could get them to come back.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's great.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any
So-
others? Yeah, go ahead.
Just a real quick question. In terms of our honor convocations that we have here in this facility, where have we planned to have those held when this is under?
EMU Convocation Center.
I'm sorry?
The EMU Convocation Center.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions on this? No? Okay. All right, so that's facilities. All right, moving on to remarks of the Board of Trustees. Anybody have any comments?
I'd like to thank Vanessa for our list of our responsibilities and dates that we're supposed to show up. And it's just it's wonderful. Thank you very much. I appreciate the addresses. I think that's great. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Any other
Are we
comments?
going to do tab E?
What's that?
We're going to do tab E? Oh.
Oh, we're
sorry.
still doing the comments for the Board of Trustees. Do you have any comments?
Happy New Year, everybody. Now that we're back.
I'll just make a quick comment, just kind of reflecting on the special reports that we had today. I'm particularly thinking about the first three, the STEAM Week, the Future Skills, and the Health and Fitness Center report. What struck me is that it's really nice when all these diverse things that we do actually align with data and research that we have been studying. So when we're studying the job trends, the aging trends, the educational needs, all that data that we get from whether it's a conference we go to or the presentations that come in from third parties, all that data is in alignment, and the things that we're doing aligns with that research and data. And it's just so really nice to see all that synergy come together like that. It's really one of the first times it kind of hit me that, yes, I know we align with data and what we do, but it just struck me that those three very diverse things are related in some way. So it was really, really nice reporting today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the board? All right, go ahead, Madam President.
Yes. Do we have photos, or am I just going to talk? No photos? There are. Okay, because then I have to tell you everything. This is a picture. First of all, we thank you so much, Warren. As you know, we had a ceremony to honor the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Ceremony was conducted by President Hearns, Vice President Hearns, and we had a rendition of Precious Lord by faculty member Gail Martin, and a spoken performance of We Are Still Dreaming by students from our Black Student Union. We had a presentation, as you can see, from Elaine Washington, which was really tremendous. And we gave out awards this time, which was a very good idea. Zachary Baker, who works in WCC's Writing Center, he received an award for coordinating the first Michigan Community College Gender and Sexuality Conference. Crispin Gasby, the lady in the middle, is the director of our WCC Entrepreneurship Center, and she, as you know, coordinates activities for a wide variety of audiences, students, faculty, staff, and community members. And Devon King, who's the Assistant Director of Outreach and Transfer Student Initiatives at U of M, created a partnership between WCC and U of M, this is really good, to ensure greater chances for our students to transfer. And she also just received an award. What was?
She'll be here.
Our award is what they highlighted her for.
Oh, that's
And
ours?
she'll be here next week with STEAM activities.
Okay, great. Welcome day is tomorrow, if you'd like to come. It's downstairs. We'll have a lot of opportunities to look at student activities, so that, and see what's going on at the campus. We have a student success conference that will be going, this is real important. The student success conference that we're hosting. A lot of things that we have done that has helped us achieve our retention rate or success rate is the coaching model. Remember, we talked about segmenting the students into smaller groups and coaching them? Well, we have been doing that. So we're very proud of our accomplishments in that, and there will be a presentation to our students so that they'll understand what that model is all about and how they can receive personalized support. Our ATC, this happened, we have a really, you know what, we have a great librarian, director of libraries. That's your title? What's your title? Director of Media? Learning Resources, okay, she's phenomenal. I mean, we have so many activities that go on in our library. I mean, have you gone in a library to see a motorcycle? I mean, there are so many things that she brings there. And one of them, it happens to be speakers. And so she had a speaker who happened to be Al Leeds and 2 students talk about WTMC and their experience and why they chose the skill sets that they're learning. So I'd like to thank the library faculty and member Maureen Perot, am I saying her name right? Good. For coordinating that presentation, and Al, of course, and the students. Honors convocation was last week. I'd like to thank Trustee Diana McKnight-Morton and Chair Christina Fleming for attending and for your remarks, Christina. Did a very great, it was a very nice job, but you're gonna love this. Okay, our student, you are really gonna love this. Okay. I promise you. Okay, our student speaker was David Seaman, who shared his incredible story of overcoming addiction and homelessness. Wow. He is now a 4.0 student and president, this is it, the drum roll, of our collegiate recovery program.
All right, good, good,
Okay,
good.
Wow.
so we are asking him to come and speak at our next board meeting.
Great.
And when you hear,
Oh,
but
that's great.
the best news is even that he has been named as a semifinalist for the Jack Kent Cook Foundation
Award.
scholarship. And in addition to David, another student, Ali Kermasha, is also a semifinalist for this. Linda, could you remind me?
He had a standing ovation.
Yes, he did.
That's the first time ever, ever.
Wow.
His speech was
Is
amazing.
he the young man that spoke?
No.
No,
No,
he
it's
was
not him?
amazing.
Okay.
So thank you for, that was a good suggestion.
He wants to go to law school, too.
Winter Gala, I hope you'll be joining us February 8th. It's a Roaring Twenties theme, and we're, thanking the foundation for everything. Did you want to say anything, Phil?
Let us know.
Let us know.
When you're coming, when you're coming.
Okay, as you know, we've been ranked again as number 8 in the nation on the list of top 10 online certificate degree programs. The ranking is from intelligent.com, a website with a wide array of information geared towards degree-seeking students. And I also...
I love the also rank.
I
know. Little puckish humor.
And Elizabeth Thoburn will be giving a presentation tomorrow. As you know, she's a member of our faculty, and she donated a Buddhist gown to our Bailey Library and will speak about the origin and the meaning of the gown, which she acquired during her travels in Tibet.
Super cool.
The gown is called a tonka, am I saying that right? Tonga. And it's made of silk cloth and represents knowledge, wisdom, and it's now framed and hanging in the library. So if you'd like to come, it's 3:30 tomorrow.
In the library? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think you should wear that at commencement.
That might be nice. Is that the headpiece?
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good. Okay. Moving on to tab E, old business. The recommendation that the Board of Trustees approve an increase in the ML renovation project design service contract with Hobbs and Black in the amount not to exceed $500,000. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Support. Any discussion on this tab E?
Are we going to see it again?
Pardon me?
Are we going to see another addition to this cost?
No,
Ever?
this is it.
This is it, okay.
This is
good.
Okay. If there's no other questions, Vanessa, please call the roll.
Chair Fleming,
Yes.
Treasurer Davis,
Yes.
Trustee Hatcher,
Yes?
Trustee Landau,
Yes.
Trustee McKnight Morton.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next, adjournment. Do I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
May I say, wait,
Go
can I
ahead.
just say one thing? I'm sorry. I'd like to thank Warren. Warren, where are you?
Warren.
Okay. Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Oh, everybody seconds that. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you, meeting adjourned.